Hello everyone, and welcome to part 2 of this month's series all about transformation and change. So this week I am tuning in to the goddess Eris. She is a Greek goddess of chaos. Now, I've always had a fascination for her. I first came across her through this computer game designed by Microsoft called Pandora's Box. She was one of 7 trickster characters that were inside Pandora's box and had escaped, and in the game you had to go through solving various puzzles and traveling the world, and you learned about these different trickster characters along the way. You got different pieces of their stories. And I mention this because Pandora's box, the myth of Pandora's box, is very, very different to how it's portrayed in the game. The game took so many different elements of myths from multiple different cultures and drew them all together as one story. And that is ultimately what everything is that we come across. Everything that we come across, everything that we speak, everything that we hear, everything that we perceive is some sort of story. It is a narrative that we have told ourselves, or that society has told us, or that the collective human unconsciousness has told over generation after generation. And Eris, as a goddess of chaos, she stepped forward during the time of the ancient Greeks to be a figure of change, to be a figure who humans could look to as inspiration and as this light reminding them that although they lived in a particular society with particular rules and regulations and expectations that was very, very rigid, they could break out of it. They could change. They could make change. They themselves were agents of change, just as Eris is. And this, in turn, created many stories about Eris. Some which, due to that time period, and due to that struggle between keeping within a box and pulling out of it and pulling out of it, many of the stories that we have about Eris we might look at and be afraid of. I know that when I mention that I connect with Eris, I get a lot of weird looks, and a lot of people wonder, isn't that something you should be afraid of? Isn't she really low vibrational? And no, she is not. She, like many other beings, has played a certain role, is playing a certain role, and the way that you interact with any being is up to you and your vibration. If you put out an expectation of positivity, of high vibration, of learning and growing into the light, then that is what you will receive. If you have a different perspective, then that is what you will receive. And that is where a lot of the stories about Eris as the goddess that essentially started the whole Trojan War, according to the oral stories later written down as the Iliad, But again, that was a story that the people then needed. The people of that time period, that society, they needed that. The collective unconsciousness of that time needed to have that narrative in order to connect with their world as it was and how they perceived it, and give them that little sliver of possibility that yes, each and every one of them could be an agent of change. And although the possibilities of change were just as minute and tiny little slivers, it was still there. It was still possible, and it still is. For us today, working with Eris is still very, very relevant, because we're in just as much a state of change as humans have ever been throughout all the lifetimes of humans on the earth here. And so I invite you to connect with Eris, to feel her energy, and ask her to come into your life and support you with embracing change, with embracing the unknown, and letting go of fear. She is here right now, and when she comes in, for me, she is a rush of energy that just fills me from my crown all the way down, and swirling all around. She just said, "Dear one, that is exactly what I wish to touch on today. For I have been known as a goddess of chaos, but for each of you now, I wish for you to think of me as a guide into the unknown. A champion of conquering fear. For it is in fear that change is prevented. It is in fear that change never occurs, or occurs very little. Each of you is energy, and energy is everything. It flows everywhere, in all directions. Energy is itself chaos. And you do not need to control it. You do not need to demand that it does something for you. You do not need to force your thoughts into a particular order. You do not need to sit and chant phrases over and over. There is no need for any of that. For when you force something, you have only built a wall. And then you have put yourself behind that wall. And the energy that could flow to you, that would flow to you, now is reflected off of you. And it goes to someone else. And when it reflects off of you, because you have built that wall out of the fear of chaos, you are letting that fear go out to another. You are putting that fear out to all the energy around you. And so, my dear lightworkers, if you wish to create change through anchoring more and more light within your own lives, and upon the earth, you must embrace chaos, embrace the unknown. And fear, it will be with you. It is part of chaos. It is part of your experience here in this 3D reality. But you do not let it control you. You walk with it. You do not control fear. You do not control anything, for that is how you create walls. You walk with energy. You flow with energy. When you let yourself flow, then you will bring what you desire, or something better. But you cannot ignore fear. You cannot ignore worry, anxiety, stress. You must see it, acknowledge it, hold it close, and tell it that you see it, and that you will hold its hand and walk forward with it. And because you do this, you will be stronger all the more for acknowledging your fear, but walking forward with it anyway. And as you open yourself up to all the energy that is within you and around you, know that there are many forces around you that are working with the energy, that are feeding into the energy, that are taking from the energy. And in that, be open to, no matter your intention, your dream, your desire, be open for a path that you may not have expected, that you may never have seen, had you not brought down your walls, took the hand of fear, and being open to whatever comes your way. And whatever comes your way, know it is just energy. It is not positive or negative, or a result of something that you did right or wrong. Do not think in these dualities, for thinking that way lets fear control you. It allows walls to be built. And if you go with the flow, like driftwood, floating on waves, moving in with the tide, getting pulled back and forward and back and forward, and eventually landing upon a shore, You will go where you are meant to go. For each of you and your purpose is underneath all the layers of skills and experiences and possibilities. You are here to experience. You are here to learn the flow of energy and to be energy. You are not here to control it, to define it as good or bad, or define yourself as good or bad. You simply must be. And whatever comes your way, face it and thank it. Whatever the lessons come from whatever comes your way, be thankful. Embrace those experiences. And the more you do this, the more you allow yourself to not ignore fear, but to walk with it, the more you will be in flow. And know that even in this flow, there will be times when you stop and you pause and you find yourself on a little island. In those moments when your flow is halted, do not think good or bad. Do not force yourself off the island or force yourself to stay. Take in the moment that you have stopped in. Acknowledge all that you feel, be it fear, worry, excitement, joy, bliss. Thank each thing that you feel. And be open for the wave that will come to carry you off the island, back into the water, where you will continue to be with the tide. I invite each and every one of you to practice looking your fear in the eye, reaching out a hand, taking fear's hand, thanking it, and walking forward with it beside you. And as you walk forward, you may find that the fear will remain beside you, and that is okay. Or you may find that the fear wanders off in another direction, and that is okay too. But what you are doing is walking forward with the flow. No matter what you feel, and letting yourself be with the chaos rather than hiding from it, putting up walls against it. Practice allowing the flow and feeling the flow. So, with that, I wish all of you a wonderful rest of your day and your week, and I will see you next Wednesday. Goodbye for now.